The day the aliens came was just like any other day until it wasn't. People all over Earth were going about their normal lives when every screen on the planet suddenly showed the same thing: a massive ship floating above Earth. News channels, cut to emergency broadcasts. Social media filled with photos and videos of the giant metal craft hanging in the sky like a dark cloud. "This is not a test," said reporters, their voices shaking. "An alien ship has entered Earth's orbit." For 6 hours, the ship did nothing. It just waited. Military jets flew close but kept their distance. World leaders met in emergency sessions. Regular people huddled in their homes, staring at their TVs and phones waiting for news. Then, at exactly noon, Greenwich Mean Time, every electronic device on Earth turned on by itself. Phones, computers, TVs, radios, even old broken devices that hadn't worked in years. All of them showed the same image: a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. "People of Earth," the alien said in perfect, unaccented English. "I am High Admiral Vex of the Galactic Confederation. We have been watching your planet for many years. We have decided that your world has resources we need. You have 2 choices. Surrender these resources peacefully, or we will take them by force." The alien paused, its 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "However, according to our ancient laws, when we claim a new world, its people have the right to challenge us to single combat. 1 champion from Earth against 1 champion from our fleet. If your champion wins, we will leave and never return. If our champion wins, you will surrender without fighting, and we will take what we need." High Admiral Vex smiled, showing rows of needle-like teeth. "You have 24 hours to decide, and to choose your champion. Choose wisely, humans." The screens went dark. Panic spread across the globe. In Seoul, South Korea, the World Security Council gathered in an underground bunker. Leaders from every major nation sat around a large table, faces grim. "We must fight," said General Han, pounding his fist on the table. "We cannot trust these aliens. Even if we lose the duel, we should still fight." "With what?" asked President Lee, her voice tired. "Their ships could destroy our cities in minutes. Our weapons would be useless against them." Admiral Kang, head of the Pacific Fleet, stood up. "Then we must win the duel. We should send our strongest soldier, someone with the best training and skills." Murmurs of agreement filled the room. Leaders began suggesting names: Olympic champions, special forces soldiers, martial arts masters. In the corner of the room, a small man with glasses sat quietly, taking notes. Dr. Ji-Ho Park was not a military man or a politician. He was a scientist who studied alien biology based on the few specimens Earth had recovered from crashed scout ships over the years. "Excuse me," Dr. Park said softly. No one heard him. "Excuse me," he said again, louder this time. President Lee noticed him. "Dr. Park, do you have something to add?" The room fell silent as Dr. Park stood up. He cleared his throat. "Sending our strongest warrior would be a mistake," he said. General Han laughed. "And why is that, Doctor? Should we surrender instead?" "No," said Dr. Park. "But I've studied the aliens for 15 years. Their bodies evolved on a planet with gravity 3 times stronger than Earth's. Their muscles are dense, their bones like steel. Their skin can stop bullets. Even our strongest human would be like a child to them." "So, what do you suggest?" asked President Lee. Dr. Park pushed his glasses up his nose. "We need to think differently. These aliens value strength, above all else. Their entire society is built on physical power. They cannot understand weakness. And what they cannot understand, they cannot fight effectively." The room was silent as people tried to make sense of his words. "Are you saying," Admiral Kang began slowly, "that we should send someone weak?" "Not just anyone weak," Dr. Park said. "Someone who has lived with weakness their whole life and learned to adapt. Someone who has developed different kinds of strength." General Han stood up, his face red with anger. "This is ridiculous. You want us to send a weak person to fight an alien monster? This is the fate of our planet." "Exactly," said Dr. Park calmly. And that's why we need to be smarter than them, not stronger. The aliens expect us to send our strongest warrior. They're prepared for that. They're not prepared for what I'm suggesting. President Lee leaned forward. Dr. Park, do you have someone specific in mind? Dr. Park nodded and opened his tablet. He showed them a profile of a 65-year-old man. This is Kim Tae-won, he said. Former librarian. Lives alone in a small apartment in Seoul. Has asthma since childhood. Walks with a slight limp from a car accident 20 years ago. No military training. No fighting skills. The room erupted in protests. This is insane. We can't trust our planet to a sick old man. We'll all die. President Lee raised her hand, and the room quieted. Dr. Park, she said, please explain why this man, out of all people on Earth, should be our champion. Dr. Park showed them more data on his tablet. Tae-won has lived with physical limitations his whole life. This has made him extremely observant and patient. He can read body language better than any trained agent. As a librarian, he has vast knowledge on many subjects. Most importantly, he knows how to appear harmless while identifying others' weaknesses. Dr. Park swiped to another screen. And there's one more thing. The duel will take place in a neutral environment, one that matches Earth's atmosphere. Our studies show that the aliens' high metabolism bodies struggle in oxygen-rich environments. They become dizzy and disoriented after extended exposure. And Tae-won? Asked President Lee. His asthma means he's lived his entire life managing his breathing. He knows exactly how to control it in any situation. What looks like his greatest weakness might be his greatest advantage. The room was silent as everyone considered this strange plan. Finally, Admiral Kang spoke. It's either brilliant or the worst idea I've ever heard. But the traditional approach will fail for sure. President Lee looked around the room. We need to vote. All in favor of Dr. Park's plan? Slowly, hands went up. Not everyone, but enough. Then, it's decided, said President Lee. Dr. Park, bring Kim Tae-won to us. Let's hope he's willing to help. Dr. Park nodded. I'll go myself. As he left the room, he heard General Han mutter, God help us all. Outside, the alien ship hung in the sky waiting for humanity's answer. Kim Tae-won was watering his small rooftop garden when the world changed. He had heard the news about the aliens, of course, everyone had. But at his age, he had seen many scary things come and go. Wars, diseases, economic crashes. He figured he would just keep living his quiet life until whatever happened, happened. His cat, Mochi, stretched in a patch of sunlight. The radio played soft classical music. Tae-won carefully poured water on his tomato plants. If the world was ending, at least his tomatoes would be well watered. Then someone knocked on his door. Tae-won wasn't expecting visitors. He lived alone, in his small apartment, and rarely had guests. He put down his watering can and walked slowly to the door, his left leg dragging slightly from an old injury. When he opened the door, he found 3 people standing there. 2 were large men in dark suits, clearly security of some kind. Between them stood a smaller man with glasses. Kim Tae-won? The man with glasses asked. Yes, that's me, Tae-won said, confused. Can I help you? My name is Dr. Ji-ho Park. I need to speak with you about something very important. May we come in? Tae-won hesitated, then nodded. Something about the serious look on their faces told him this wasn't optional anyway. Inside his small apartment, Tae-won offered them tea. The security men refused, but Dr. Park accepted. They sat at Tae-won's small kitchen table. Mr. Kim, Dr. Park said, have you been following the news about the alien ship? Tae-won nodded. Of course. Hard to miss a giant spaceship. Then you know they've challenged us to a duel. 1 human champion against 1 alien champion. Yes, I heard that on the radio, Tae-won said as he poured hot water into cups. I assume our military is picking someone strong for that. Dr. Park took a deep breath. Mr. Kim, I'm here because we want you to be Earth's champion. Tae-won almost dropped the teapot. He put it down carefully and stared at Dr. Park. That's a very bad joke, he said finally. It's not a joke, Dr. Park said. The World Security Council has approved my recommendation that you represent humanity in this duel. Taiwan looked at the security men, then back at Dr. Park. But I'm nobody. I'm just an old librarian with bad lungs and a bad leg. Why would you pick me? Dr. Park sipped his tea. Because the aliens won't expect it. They come from a world where physical strength is everything. Their society values power above all else. They will send their strongest warrior, expecting us to do the same. But you represent something they can't understand. What's that? Taiwan asked. The strength that comes from weakness, Dr. Park said. All your life, you've had to think differently, find other ways to solve problems. You can't run, so you learn to observe. You can't fight, so you learn to avoid conflict. You can't breathe easily, so you learned perfect breath control. Taiwan shook his head. This is crazy. I'm 65 years old. I take medication for my heart. I use an inhaler. How can I fight an alien? You won't need to fight in the traditional sense, Dr. Park explained. The duel will take place in a neutral environment that matches Earth's atmosphere. Our research shows the aliens struggle in our oxygen-rich air. Their high metabolism bodies get confused and sluggish. You, however, have lived your whole life managing your breathing. Taiwan's cat jumped onto his lap. He stroked it absently, thinking. So you want me to, what? Outlast this alien creature? Dr. Park nodded. Essentially, yes. Use your knowledge of managing physical limitations. Make the alien fight on your terms, not theirs. And if I say no? The room was quiet. Finally, Dr. Park spoke. Then we'll find someone else. But they won't have your unique qualifications. Taiwan looked around his small apartment, at his books, his cat, his plants, his quiet life that he had built carefully over many years. If I do this, he said slowly, and by some miracle I win, what happens? The aliens leave Earth forever, Dr. Park said. If you lose, he didn't finish the sentence. Taiwan nodded. He understood. If he lost, Earth would still fight, but many would die. When do we leave? He asked quietly. The news spread quickly. At first, people thought it was a joke or a mistake. When the World Security Council confirmed that Earth's champion would be Kim Tae-wan, a 65-year-old former librarian with health problems, panic spread. We're doomed, people said on TV and online. They've chosen a weak old man to save us. Outside Taiwan's apartment building, reporters gathered. Inside a secure room at the Seoul Grand Hotel, Taiwan watched the news with Dr. Park. They hate me, Taiwan said. They think I'll fail. They don't understand the plan, Dr. Park said. But soon they will. President Lee herself came to meet Taiwan that evening. She was a tall woman with a serious face. When she entered the room, everyone stood up straight. Everyone except Taiwan, who stood up slowly, favoring his good leg. Mr. Kim, she said, shaking his hand. Thank you for accepting this difficult task. Taiwan bowed his head. I'm still not sure why I was chosen, Madam President. President Lee sat down across from him. When I first heard Dr. Park's plan, I thought it was crazy too. But then I remembered something my grandmother told me. She survived the war by appearing weak. The soldiers didn't see her as a threat, so they ignored her. Meanwhile, she helped dozens of people escape. She leaned forward. Sometimes, Mr. Kim, the person who seems weakest is actually the strongest in ways others can't see. Taewon wasn't convinced, but he nodded anyway. Later that night, alone in his hotel room, Taewon opened the window and looked up at the alien ship floating in the night sky. It glowed faintly, like a new moon. He took out his inhaler and took a puff, feeling his airways open up. All his life, his body had fought against him. His lungs that couldn't get enough air. His leg that wouldn't work right. His heart that beat too fast sometimes. Why me? He whispered to the ship in the sky. As if in answer, his phone rang. It was a video call from his only nephew, Do-hyun. Uncle, Do-hyun said when Taewon answered. Is it true? Are you really going to fight the alien? Taewon saw the worry in his nephew's eyes. It seems so, he said. But why you? Do-hyun asked. Tae-won thought about it. I'm not sure, he said honestly. Dr. Park thinks my weaknesses might actually be strengths against these aliens. Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You know, Uncle, when I was a kid and the other boys made fun of me for being small, you told me something I never forgot. What was that? Tae-won asked. You said that the reed that bends in the wind survives the storm that breaks the mighty oak. You said sometimes being small and flexible is better than being big and strong. Tae-won remembered that conversation from many years ago. He had told his nephew that story to make him feel better. He hadn't really believed it himself. But now, maybe there was some truth to it after all. Get some rest, Uncle, Do-hyun said. The whole world is watching, but our family believes in you. After the call ended, Tae-won looked up at the alien ship again. For the first time since Dr. Park had knocked on his door, he felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, a lifetime of weakness had prepared him for this moment of strength. The world waited for news about Kim Tae-won's training. People expected to see videos of intense workouts, special weapons, or high-tech suits. Instead, they saw nothing. The World Security Council kept Tae-won in a secure building. But inside, he wasn't doing what most people would call training. He was simply living his normal life. Every morning, Tae-won woke up at 6 a.m., just as he had done for 40 years. He made tea, ate a small breakfast, and read for 1 hour. Then he watered the plants that Dr. Park had brought from his apartment. After that, he did gentle stretching exercises that his doctor had shown him years ago for his bad leg. In a room next door, Dr. Park and his assistant Soo-min watched everything through cameras. They took notes on how Tae-won moved, how he solved problems, how he managed his breathing when his asthma acted up. Is this really helping? Soo-min asked on the third day. He's just living normally. Dr. Park nodded. That's exactly the point. We're not trying to change him. We're trying to understand how his adaptations work. They watched as Tae-won reached for a book on a high shelf. Instead of stretching up painfully or using a step stool, he used a long wooden back scratcher to hook the book and pull it down. See that? Dr. Park said excitedly. He found a tool to solve the problem. No wasted energy, no strain, simple but effective. Soo-min made a note. I still don't see how this helps against an alien warrior. Dr. Park smiled. You will. Meanwhile, the alien ship had moved closer to Earth. They had accepted humanity's agreement to the duel and were now preparing their champion. The aliens sent videos of their champion to Earth's leaders. The videos showed a massive creature with blue skin and powerful muscles. His name was Commander Krax, and he stood 3 meters tall. In the videos, Krax broke stone blocks with his hands, lifted heavy weights, and defeated combat robots in practice fights. The videos were meant to scare humanity. For most people, they worked. General Han stormed into Dr. Park's observation room waving his tablet with the alien videos. Have you seen this? He demanded. Their champion is a monster, and what is our champion doing? Reading books and watering plants. Dr. Park stayed calm. General, please keep your voice down, and yes, I've seen the videos. They're doing exactly what we expected. Which is what? General Han asked angrily. Showing off, Dr. Park said. They value physical strength above all else, so they're showing us their strength to intimidate us. But they're also showing us their weaknesses. He pointed to a screen where Tae-won was carefully measuring his heart medicine. And our champion is showing us his strengths. General Han shook his head and left. He didn't understand, but Dr. Park didn't expect him to. On the 5th day, Dr. Park entered Tae-won's room for the first time since the observation began. How are you feeling? He asked. Tae-won looked up from his book. Fine, a little bored. When does my training start? Dr. Park sat down across from him. It already has. We've been watching how you live, how you solve problems, how you adapt to your limitations. Now I need to ask you some questions. For the next 2 hours, Dr. Park asked Tae-won about his life, how he managed his asthma, how he had adapted after his car accident damaged his leg, how he organized the library to make his work easier. When, I was younger, Taewon explained. I tried to hide my weaknesses. I would push myself too hard, try to keep up with others. It never worked. I would end up sick or hurt. What changed? Dr. Park asked. I got older, Taewon said with a small smile. I accepted that I had to work differently. I learned to watch people, to see how they moved, what they were thinking. I learned to solve problems before they became problems. Dr. Park nodded and made notes. One more question. The alien videos, have you watched them? Yes, Taewon said. Commander Krax is very strong. What else did you notice? Taewon was quiet for a moment. He's not very flexible. When he moves quickly, he loses balance and... He paused. His breathing changes when he exerts himself. Like mine does, but different. Like he can't get enough air. Dr. Park smiled. This was exactly what he had hoped for. Taewon wasn't just physically different from the aliens. He thought differently too. That night, President Lee called for an update. How is our champion? She asked. Ready? Dr. Park said. Not in the traditional way, but ready. The aliens have sent the details for the duel, President Lee said. It will take place tomorrow in a specially built dome in orbit. The atmosphere will match Earth's. No weapons allowed. Victory by surrender or incapacitation. Dr. Park nodded. Good. The Earth atmosphere will work in our favor. Is there anything else you need? President Lee asked. Dr. Park thought for a moment. Yes. I need Kim Taewon's exact daily routine maintained. His meals, his medicine, everything exactly as he's used to. Done, she said. And Dr. Park, if this doesn't work... I know, he said quietly. The weight of the world is on his shoulders, or rather it isn't. And that's the point. On the morning of the duel, Taewon woke up at 6 a.m. as usual. He made his tea, ate his breakfast, read for 1 hour. Then he carefully packed his few belongings, including his inhaler and heart medicine. Dr. Park came to escort him to the launch pad where a special shuttle waited to take them to the orbital dome. Are you nervous? Dr. Park asked as they walked. Terrified, Taewon admitted. But I've been scared my whole life. Scared of not being able to breathe, scared of falling, scared of failing. Fear and I are old friends. Dr. Park nodded. Do you understand the plan? Yes, Taewon said. Don't try to match his strength. Use the environment. Watch his movements. Find his weaknesses. Survive. And one more thing, Dr. Park added. The dome will have Earth-like atmosphere, but slightly higher oxygen than normal. For humans, this is fine. For the aliens, it will affect them, Taewon finished. Like how too much oxygen affects me sometimes, makes me lightheaded. Exactly, Dr. Park said. Your whole life you've had to be aware of your breathing. Now that awareness might save us all. As they reached the shuttle, a small crowd had gathered. To Taewon's surprise, they weren't angry or scared. They were supportive. Some held signs that said Kim Taewon, Earth's champion, and strength comes in many forms. Taewon's nephew Do-hyun was there too. He hugged his uncle tightly. Remember what you taught me, Do-hyun whispered. The reed that bends in the wind survives the storm that breaks the mighty oak. Taewon finished. As the shuttle door closed, Taewon looked out at Earth below, the beautiful blue planet that had never made things easy for him, but that he loved anyway. Now it was time to fight for it, in his own way. The shuttle journey to the orbital dome took 2 hours. Taewon sat quietly looking out the window at the stars. Dr. Park sat beside him, checking Taewon's vitals on a small device. Your heart rate is steady, Dr. Park said, sounding surprised. Most people would be panicking by now. Taewon smiled slightly. When you have a weak heart, you learn to stay calm. Panic uses too much energy. As they got closer, they could see the dome. It was a massive glass-like bubble floating in space. Inside, they could make out a flat circular area, the fighting ground. The shuttle docked smoothly. When the doors opened, they were met by 2 aliens in what looked like formal uniforms. The aliens were tall and blue-skinned, with 4 eyes that blinked in odd patterns. The human champion will come with us, one alien said in perfect English. The observer may watch from the viewing area. Dr. Park squeezed Taewan's shoulder. Remember what we discussed? You don't need to win by their rules, just survive. Taewan nodded and followed the aliens. They walked through a long corridor that curved around the dome. Through the clear walls, Taewan could see Earth below, beautiful and blue. They entered, a small room with a bench and some strange devices on the walls. Preparation room, one alien explained. Your opponent is in an identical room on the opposite side. When the signal sounds, enter the arena. The aliens left, and Taewan was alone. He took out his inhaler and took a puff, feeling his airways open. Then he did his stretching exercises for his bad leg. Finally, he sat on the bench and closed his eyes, controlling his breathing the way he had learned to do during asthma attacks. A low hum filled the room. Then a voice spoke. Champions, prepare to enter. Taewan stood up, put his inhaler in his pocket, and walked to the door that had opened in front of him. The arena was a flat circle about 50 meters across. The floor was made of some soft material that felt like rubber under Taewan's feet. Above, the dome was transparent, showing the stars and Earth beyond. On the far side, another door opened and Commander Krax entered. In person, the alien was even more impressive than in the videos. He stood 3 meters tall with muscles that looked like steel cables under his blue skin. He wore only a simple cloth around his waist, showing off his powerful body. When he saw Taewan, he smiled, showing sharp teeth. Around the edge of the arena was a raised area where observers sat. There were many aliens and just a few humans, including Dr. Park and President Lee. High Admiral Vex stood up from the observer area and spoke, his voice echoing in the dome. The terms of the duel are simple. No weapons, no outside help. Victory comes by surrender or when one champion cannot continue. If Earth's champion wins, the Galactic Confederation will leave this system and never return. If our champion wins, Earth will surrender its resources peacefully. Vex looked at both champions. Begin when ready. Commander Krax immediately dropped into a fighting stance, his massive hands curled into fists, his 4 eyes focused on Taewan. The old librarian simply stood there, his weight on his good leg, breathing calmly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Krax charged. The alien moved surprisingly fast for his size. He crossed the arena in seconds, his feet pounding on the soft floor. He reached Taewan and swung a massive fist aimed at the old man's head. Taewan didn't try to block. It would have been useless against such strength. Instead, he simply stepped to the side, moving just enough for the blow to miss. His movements were small, efficient, using minimal energy, just as he had done all his life. Krax's momentum carried him past Taewan. The alien turned quickly, surprised. Stand and fight, human, Krax growled. Taewan said nothing. He just watched, observing Krax's movements, his breathing, his balance. Krax charged again. This time he tried to grab Taewan. Again, the old man used minimal movement to step aside. Krax missed again. This pattern continued. The alien would attack with overwhelming force, and Taewan would make small, efficient movements to avoid harm. He never struck back, he never ran, he just moved enough to stay safe. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Sweat began to show on Krax's blue skin. His breathing became heavier. The high oxygen environment of the dome, comfortable for humans, was affecting him. In the observer area, Dr. Park leaned forward intently. It's working, he whispered to President Lee. Look at the alien's breathing. The oxygen saturation is too high for his metabolism. On the arena floor, Krax was growing frustrated. Every attack missed, every grab failed. The human wasn't fighting back, but somehow Krax couldn't land a solid hit. Fight me, Krax roared, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in anger. Taewan remained calm. He noticed that Krax was moving differently now. His steps were less coordinated. His breathing was irregular. His attacks were becoming wild and unpredictable. 15 minutes into the duel, Krax stopped, bending over slightly, his massive chest heaving. What is this? He gasped. Why can't I hit you? Taewan spoke for the first time. Because you're fighting the wrong battle. Crack straightened up, angry again. He rushed forward with a roar. As he approached, Taewan felt his chest tighten, an asthma attack triggered by stress. He reached into his pocket for his inhaler, but in his haste, he dropped it. The small device clattered to the floor between them. Crack saw it fall. Trained to see any loose object as a potential weapon, he instinctively stopped his charge and bent down to grab the inhaler. The sudden change in posture, combined with the oxygen oversaturation in his system, caused a rush of blood to Crax's head. The alien swayed, his four eyes blinking out of sync. Taewan watched as Crax tried to straighten up. The alien's movements were jerky now. His blue skin had turned a lighter shade. His breathing was shallow and fast. What have you done to me? Crax gasped. Nothing, Taewan said truthfully. It's the air. Too much oxygen for your body. Crax took one step forward, then another. He reached for Taewan, but his movements were slow now. The alien's eyes rolled back in his head and he collapsed to his knees. Impossible, he whispered. Then he fell forward onto the soft floor and lay still. The dome was completely silent. Then one of the alien observers stood up and checked Crax. The Confederation champion is unconscious, the alien announced. He cannot continue. Taewan stood there, breathing hard from his own asthma attack. He bent down slowly, picked up his inhaler, and took a puff. His airways opened up again, and he took a deep breath of the oxygen-rich air that had just saved Earth. High Admiral Vex stood up slowly, his four eyes fixed on the small, limping human who had somehow defeated their strongest warrior. The human champion is victorious, Vex announced formally. According to our ancient laws, the Galactic Confederation will leave Earth system and never return. The human observers erupted in cheers. Dr. Park rushed into the arena and hugged Taewan. You did it, he said excitedly. You actually did. Taewan looked down at the unconscious alien, then at his own thin hands still holding his inhaler. Yes, he said quietly. I guess I did. News of Taewan's victory spread across Earth like wildfire. TV stations played the video of the duel on repeat. People who had doubted him now celebrated him as a hero. The old librarian who had saved humanity with an inhaler and a limp after the duel, Taewan was taken to a medical room in the orbital station. Doctors checked him over while Dr. Park stood nearby, still amazed by what had happened. How do you feel? Dr. Park asked. Taewan took a deep breath. Tired. My leg hurts. I need my heart medicine soon. He paused. But alive. We're all alive. The door opened and President Lee entered. She bowed deeply to Taewan. Mr. Kim, she said formally. On behalf of all humanity, thank you. Taewan looked embarrassed. I didn't do much. I just survived. That was exactly what we needed, President Lee said. Your victory will be remembered for generations. Before Taewan could respond, another visitor arrived. It was High Admiral Vex himself. The alien leader had to duck to enter the human-sized room. His four eyes blinked slowly as he looked at Taewan. I request a private conversation with the human champion, Vex said. President Lee looked concerned, but Taewan nodded. It's okay. Everyone else left the room. Taewan sat on the edge of the medical bed. Vex stood before him, towering over the old man. You are not what we expected, Vex said finally. I know, Taewan replied. Our scientists studied your species for years. We analyzed your military, your athletes, your warriors. We prepared for your strongest. Vex's four eyes blinked in sequence. But you sent... You. Taewan smiled slightly. I'm not special among humans. There are millions like me. That is, what we failed to understand, Vex said. On our world, those born weak do not survive. Those who become weak are left behind. Strength is everything. That's not how humans work, Taewan said. We adapt. We help each other. We find different kinds of strength. Vex was quiet for a moment, thinking. Your inhaler, the device you dropped, it helps you breathe? Taewon nodded. I was born with weak lungs. The medicine opens my airways when they get tight. On our world, you would not have survived childhood, Vex said. Yet here you are, defeating our strongest warrior. Because of my weakness, not despite it, Taewon said. All my life I've had to think differently, move differently, breathe differently. I've had to watch and wait and find other ways to solve problems. Vex's large hand reached into a pouch at his waist. He pulled out something and held it toward Taewon. This is for you, Vex said, a token of respect. It was a small blue crystal that glowed softly. Taewon took it carefully. What is it? He asked. In our culture, warriors exchange tokens after a worthy battle, Vex explained. This crystal comes from my homeworld. It is rare. Taewon was touched by the gesture. Thank you. Vex straightened to his full height. As promised, we will leave your system and never return. But know this, Kim Taewon. The story of this duel will spread through the galaxy. Other species will hear of how humanity sent its weakest to defeat our strongest. They will wonder, as I now wonder, what your strongest might be capable of. With that, the alien leader bowed his head slightly and left. 3 days later, the alien fleet departed Earth's orbit. People around the world celebrated in the streets. Governments declared holidays. For the first time in history, all of humanity was united in relief and joy. Taewon watched it all from his apartment in Seoul. He had refused most interviews and declined invitations to speak at the United Nations. He just wanted to return to his quiet life. But some things had changed. His rooftop garden now had exotic plants, gifts from grateful admirers. His bookshelves were filled with new books sent by people from around the world. And his phone rang, constantly with calls from world leaders, scientists, and ordinary people wanting to thank him. Dr. Park visited him 1 week after they returned to Earth. How are you adjusting to fame? Dr. Park asked, accepting a cup of tea. Taewon shrugged. I turn the phone off most days. I still water my plants. I still read my books. Life goes on. Dr. Park smiled. The scientific community is fascinated by what happened. Your victory has changed how we think about human adaptation and evolution. We've started a new research program to study how physical limitations drive innovation. And what have you found? Taewon asked. That what we once saw as weaknesses might be our greatest strengths, Dr. Park said. People with different abilities have developed unique ways of thinking, moving, and solving problems. In a galaxy full of creatures evolved for different environments, this diversity might be humanity's true advantage. Taewon nodded. My grandfather used to say that a tree that grows in the wind becomes stronger than one that grows in a sheltered valley. Wise words, Dr. Park said. Oh, I almost forgot. He handed Taewon an envelope. President Lee asked me to give you this. It's an invitation to help establish a new department, extraterrestrial relations. They want your perspective. Taewon took the envelope but didn't open it. I'm just a librarian. You're the man who saved Earth, Dr. Park corrected him. And you did it not with strength but with wisdom. That's exactly what we'll need for the future. After Dr. Park left, Taewon sat on his small balcony with his cat on his lap. The blue crystal that Vex had given him sat on the table, glowing softly in the evening light. He thought about the alien's parting words, about how the story would spread through the galaxy. His phone rang again. This time he answered it. It was his nephew, Do-hyun. Uncle, have you seen your mail today? Do-hyun asked excitedly. Not yet, Taewon said. You're getting hundreds of letters from children all over the world. They're being delivered to my office since no one has your address. Taewon was surprised. Children? Why would they write to me? Because you're their hero, Do-hyun said. They're calling you the mighty reed, the one who bent but didn't break. Children with asthma, with disabilities, with all kinds of challenges. They see themselves in you. After the call, Taewon took out a piece of paper and began writing. If children were going to write to him, he would write back to each one, and he knew exactly what he would say. True strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising every time you fall. Your challenges are not your weaknesses. They are teaching you unique strengths that others will never know. As night fell over Seoul, Tae-won looked up at the stars, wondering which one the alien fleet was heading toward now. He hoped they would tell his story well. Not the story of how one old man had defeated an alien champion, but the story of humanity itself, a species that had turned vulnerability into ingenuity, weakness into wisdom. In the vast universe, filled with creatures evolved for strength and speed and power, perhaps humanity's true gift was learning to find strength in unlikely places, to see value in every person, every ability, every different way of being. Tae-won took his evening medicine, used his inhaler and went to sleep knowing that the world had changed, and so had he.